Welcome back to Mom Files. Today we're going to dive into talking about can you love being a parent but also miss who you were before having kids? I definitely think that this is something that when talking to moms, it's kind of a recurring theme. We love being parents, but a lot of us, I won't say all of us, but a lot of us found that transitioning from who we were before, who we are after children was something that we weren't quite prepared for, or
Mhm,
at least not really
mhm,
given warning that you're going to be like a whole different person.
mhm,
So I'll jump into it and kind of my experience from what I remember from the pregnancy stage and just kind of the feeling of realizing that I'm not who I was before. What works for me now might be different. And it really, I mean, it hit me hard. I know, Aleea, you might have had a little more warning from me, but I definitely, as soon as people found out that I was pregnant, it was immediately like, hey, hope you're ready for everything to change, which
mhm.
still was not good preparation for me, I will say. Because I'm like, yeah, obviously everything's changing. Like my body is not mine. I
Mhm.
look, feel, act different. And I'm like literally I'm gonna be pushing a human into this world. Obviously, my
And
world
then
is about
adding a
to
human.
that's what like, right? And like, and then for me too, as you know, Aleea, like I moved. I was
Mhm,
at a pretty new job. So I'm like, yeah, my whole life is kind of up in shambles. So obviously everything is changing. But they didn't really talk to me about how everything was gonna change for me as a
mm,
person. So I do feel like that was a really hard journey for me. I will tell anybody who wants to listen that I mourned myself as a single being before when I was pregnant. I had quotes one of the easiest pregnancies you could probably ever have, really no issues. So people were often really confused when I was like, I hate being pregnant. I could feel the looming, like you're not going to be who you were, whether it be hormones or I am just also a very like introspective person. So I could tell things were making me feel differently. But yeah, I know. And then when I had Azzy, nothing that I liked before really sounded like fun. I know I've talked and I will talk about my love for makeup and my love for plants, even my love for my dog. A lot of things just kind of became a nuisance. And the things that I liked before having Azzy, I'm not saying I didn't like, but it became a whole different like thing to me. So yeah,
mm.
I mean, we
Yeah,
can go deeper into it, but Aleea, did you have any of the similar like what's going on?
definitely. No, that is something I definitely struggled with, and I still do, and I know for you, it was something that you also experienced is I wasn't planning on being a mom anytime soon, like, for me, it was definitely a surprise, which was it wasn't a bad surprise, but it was a surprise, and so
Right.
I had to process the fact that my life before having a child was just gone in a sense, like,
Mhm.
it just vanished, and it was a lot to take in. I was super excited, but I just felt like all my life plans changed. Like I had to now flow with these new feelings, learn how to adjust with the sudden changes, especially because I just find change to be like hard no matter what kind of change it is. And so this was like obviously a really big life change. And once you take a minute and like sit with those feelings, it does become easier to embrace. But I think you made an excellent point when you were talking about like, being pregnant, because I also had a really, like, I was blessed to have a really good pregnancy as well. But I also felt
Mhm.
like this looming, like, you don't know when they're gonna come. And so I just was always like stressed, like, okay, is like it gonna have, like, I don't know, like, you wanna be excited, but then you're also trying to deal with, like, oh, I only have 9 months to do all of this stuff, like, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then you're also like, oh, I have 9 months to do all of this stuff. When in,
Right.
so it's like a constant like internal battle, I guess. It's like you're excited, but then you're like, wait, this is my last 9 months of being in quotes alone. I don't, it's just a lot of feelings
Mhm.
to take in. Like, yeah, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. That was gonna be something I would add too, was, like, the excitement of having her. But, like, for me, the not knowing
Mhm.
because you can plan as much as you want. I am, a realist, and I knew there was not very much planning for what this baby was gonna be like, for what I was gonna be like with her because babies all need something different, right? So, that juxtaposition of, like being excited, but also being like, I could only be excited to a certain
Mhm.
point because I didn't know what was to come. Was I gonna like being a mom? I love children and I have a very maternal instinct, mommy hobby. We all know. Nobody that knows me will be surprised hearing that. But like it still is like, okay, this is a human being that I'm supposed to cultivate in this world. That's like that changes a lot too on top of your hormones and stuff. So if you're like me and you're like super introspective and you're like, it was just extra hard even in just the pregnancy, and I nothing had even changed really, but you like
Mhm.
you say, like, this is your last 9 months to be alone, but I remember being like, "But I'm not alone,"
Mhm.
is the thing, and everything that I do affects, like, not even the not being able to drink, right? That
Mhm.
wasn't but, like, you want a sandwich, supposedly, you're supposed to you have to heat it up.
Right.
You want, certain
You're
food, you have
instantly
to do these.
restricted. Yeah.
Exactly. You wanna have your coffee.
1
You can
cup.
only have a certain amount a day, like, all these things and it's things that, like, before I didn't have an issue with. I would have
Mhm.
put those restrictions on myself, but like I mentioned in I think the last podcast that we filmed, as soon as you give me a restriction, I, like, push against it, which I think made it more hard for me in the beginning because I was like, "Is this just gonna be parenthood? Like, I'm literally gonna not be able to do anything that I want or have anything that I want when I'm allowing myself to want it because I'm not supposed to do it or have it."
Yeah. It's always easy when you put restrictions on yourself versus, like, forced restrictions.
Right.
Like,
Like, I
oh.
wanna you're telling me I can't have a sandwich, but then there's also the, like, what if you just go have a sandwich?
Mhm.
Who's it gonna hurt? I don't know, that's the problem.
Right. Yeah, and if you are someone who does eat sandwiches and you're comfortable with that, great, but I know I personally wasn't just because I was like, "Why take the risk?" And
Yeah.
it's funny
Well, and
because
there's
I didn't
things
really care about sandwiches until I was pregnant, and then it was like I was craving fucking sandwiches.
well, this is gonna make me sound so bad, but that's how I was with alcohol. I wanted to drink
Okay.
so bad. I remember craving beer. I don't like drinking. Right back to it. I'm still like, I feel like I should want to be having a drink, but I don't want to. But there were things that I think that was honest. I think, and I don't even know if it was a pregnancy craving or if it was more like a you cannot. This is the one
Mhm.
thing that you do not want to do. But I will say, like, I think with everything comes just like a side note, with everything, there's like a little bit of I've seen women who eat lunch meat or seafood or things, and I think it's just like in moderation, like everything. I mean, that's like now doctors are saying if you need a glass of wine to calm down when you're pregnant, have a glass of wine. It's not gonna like do anything. But then there's also the people around you, which we could go into for days. But kind of that being like a great segue into how it's okay to like one, it's okay to mourn who you were, but when is it okay to mourn that and like still love your children, if that makes sense? Like, can you still be upset about
Yeah.
it, but
Mhm.
have a good relationship with your child?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I'm sure we'll talk about it even more later in the episode, but you are allowed to feel both feelings. Like, I hate this notion that it's like it's an all or nothing, where
Mhm.
it's like you can either fully love motherhood or you, like, hate motherhood, but I'm like, why can't there be, like, a happy medium where it's like, yeah, sometimes you do dislike them. But at the same
Right.
time, it's like you can still be so grateful and enjoy the journey of motherhood. You just maybe are like that moment, maybe you're not loving. Like, I don't think there should be, like, I think you can have both feelings at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and I don't necessarily think that it makes you not loving. You can like mourn something and love something at the same time. Like I think for some reason we're taught that having like two emotions at one time is like not okay. But I also like because I was thinking about this a lot when we were talking about this episode and how like because that's part of why we started this, right? Like we are kind of sick of being moms who have to like prove that they love their children to then also be able to say like I need some space or whatever the case. And I was thinking about why I'm like that, like why well, because I'm getting a little more into the point where I'm like, I'm not like that, right? Like I don't have to explain myself for not wanting to do something or whatever. But like why? do women feel like they need to? And my mom was a great example. I mean, I'm the youngest of 8 children, right? So her whole life was about children and her children, and she literally put everything to the side to be a stay-at-home mom and to raise us. And I think I saw that and that's what I expected. Like, that's
Mhm.
what I was told. Like, you as soon as you have kids, your life is about your kids. I had a weird time with Azzy, like, being like, "Okay, my whole life is about her." Absolutely. I would drop everything in a heartbeat for her, but I also don't have to.
Right.
I can want time alone, I can have my job, I can do, like, things differently and it not be a bad thing, but I definitely would say, like, that has been really hard for me because all the women in my life with their kids, it's like, "Okay, we didn't pursue an education or we didn't pursue a career," and I think our generation's doing a lot better at that, but it is definitely that feeling of, like, there's something wrong with me for wanting to like, trying to figure out if I was going to end up being a stay-at-home mom or if I was gonna continue to have my career was like, am I wrong for wanting to keep my career and spend time with my child? Like, I
Right.
had
Yeah.
I had best of both worlds, but
Yeah, and I think you make an excellent point because also think there is a component naturally because, like, I mean, you've mentioned it. You have always had kind of that maternal. I didn't. I never thought I would be a mom. Like, it's never like come like being a mom was just not something like, a lot of kids are like, oh, I want to be a mom one day. That was not
yeah,
something that ever came into my mind. Which, by the way, if that's you and you'd like an episode on that topic, I definitely think that is a great topic because I feel extremely maternal now, and it was crazy because it was like right after I gave birth, it was wild how naturally my mindset just went to like fully about Dash.
yeah,
It was like it was hard to focus on other things as well. I actually found once I got out of kind of like the early postpartum and was starting to feel like myself again, it was easy to be like, okay, wait, I am still a human being. I do still have things to focus on that's not just him. But it was crazy how
right,
all of a sudden it was like tunnel vision. It was like child. Everything else just kind of, you're on the wait side.
right.
But I think it was also a really good reminder for me because I sometimes I do get caught up in it just being about him because it's all I have going on. Like before it was the
Mhm,
pets. Like I would talk about my cat
mhm,
and like the dog and like that was kind of what was happening. And now I feel like it's kind of flipped where now that I have him, it's something I can talk about and like
mhm.
things like that. But at the same time, I'm like, it was a reminder and it's kind of shown me like I do need to continue finding more ways to bring myself back to,
Yeah,
like myself. Like, for example, jumping back into more work, doing this podcast, like it helps. Like I'm able to focus more on myself and like things that matter to me versus
yeah.
just my child.
No, totally, I think that's a great point. I think when as he was Dash's age, I used to joke, but honestly, it was really true that my whole personality was my child.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting out of it more, right? We're doing this
Mhm.
podcast. I'm doing more things on the side that I love because I have more time and stuff. But it really was like I would come home to visit friends who didn't have kids and they'd be like, "So how's life?" And I'd be like, "Haha, work and child." Like, I'm sorry. Maybe you'll understand one day. Um, but it really was like and I made that joke the other like last time I went somewhere and I was like, "Hey, my personality isn't all about my child anymore." But that like to me, I think also that was hard for me because I'm like, is it also do I want Azzy to see mom have her whole life be solely about me? That's what I saw growing up and there wasn't anything wrong with it. That's not who I am as a woman. So I was like, what do I want to show my child? And at the end of the day, I think and I talk to moms about this a lot when we're being hard on ourselves about a certain thing. I try to remind, like, what would we want our daughters to do, or our
Yeah.
sons to do, or our children to do in general? And a lot of the time, the answer is the opposite of what we're doing. So for me, it was like, well, my whole world is her, and that's my tunnel vision. And now, like Aleea said, like when as they get older, it's a little bit easier to be like, okay, like that's what I needed to do when they were younger, but now we're getting to a point where I can do something different. And seeing how Azzy has reacted to me having my own personality is honestly one of the cutest things ever because, like, this morning makeup, she was like, "Mommy, do your makeup." And I had to put on a little bit, and she did her and her dad's makeup. And I was like, these are things that we wouldn't have if I didn't bring back or find my own self again. It's different than it was before, but otherwise, it's like she started, taking care of babies and stuff, and I was like, "Is this what you want, or is this because this is the only example you have is mommy just taking care of you?" The same thing with work. Like, I sh I don't know, do I you remember me telling you at, like, 1.5, 2 years old, she was like, "I have to work." And I'm like,
You're
"Why
like, "Oh,
is this what we're playing?"
playing word." No, it's so true, and one, I think when you like you said, you saw your mom and it wasn't an issue. So this if this like maybe you do identify with just being a mom and you don't want a job and that's great too. But if you
Yeah,
are someone that wants more, I'm like that's also okay and you should be allowed to explore outside right. So I'm like you make an excellent point. And I think honestly it's a great reminder our kids show us maybe sometimes what we're hyper focusing on and like the stuff that's not
absolutely.
important. Work is important, but at that time, you're like, "Wait, maybe I'm doing too much work and, like, need to find some time for fun, so this isn't what we're hyper focused on."
Literally, like, because I was like, "What?" And no, it's you're exactly right. I mean, seeing my mom be the parent that she wanted to be, I thought that that is what I wanted to do because she loved it so much, and I loved kids when I was younger, so I was like, I'm gonna be the best mom ever." And I am, I think, but it looks very different for me than it did for my mom. I don't want 8 children, I love that for
Right,
her, and that was, like, her, like, that was her joy and stuff, and
right.
but I do, like, as an adult, looking back, I'm like, there's things that she missed out on
Mm,
that she didn't see as missing out on, but
right,
I do,
right,
so I'm gonna change a few things, but it's yeah, exactly, like, everybody's personality and what they want, and if you're quote unquote, if your whole personality really is your children, that's what you really love, I like, that is amazing, but it was hard for me to reconcile with that's not who I was.
right. Yeah, I agree, and I think that really leads us into a great point, like, how do we reframe this idea that to love your children like, you can love your children, but you don't have to love everything that, is being a parent, and you can also have other things, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely, and I mean, this goes into it, but, like, little sidebar, I think you can combine parenting with having your own thing because at the end of the day, like I said, I do like having my own things, but Azzy is literally my world. So most of the things that I do, like I said, the makeup, she's like she joins in on. Sometimes I do it myself and stuff, but like plants, I include her on. Found my passion for having my indoor plants again. I involve her in it. So I'm not saying that to have your own thing, your child doesn't get to be a part of it. But I do think there are things that like there's
Balancing.
expected of
Mhm.
motherhood that like I found that I don't like and feel guilty. I think I talk about it with people pretty often. I don't know how I didn't know this. I've babysat and taken care of kids my whole life. I do not like imagination play. Like, it's hard for me. I'm like especially when the kid's a toddler and they're, like, controlling the narrative and they're like,
Yeah.
"You said that wrong." And I'm like, "Do you want me to play or do you want me to just sit here?" Because, like,
Mhm.
I don't this isn't fun for me.
Yes.
So, turning that into, like finding time that I can, like, just, like, go and do what she wants, but, like, enjoy myself doesn't have to be the imagination play that is expected of me. I play Barbies with her, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times I'll turn that imagination play into, like, we go into the backyard and we
Right.
imagine that we're on an adventure and stuff like that, but, like, getting out of that and being like, "I'm not a bad mom for not wanting to
Right.
play Barbies with you."
Yeah, you find that good balance, and I feel that so hard. I also do not enjoy imagination play. Like, when they're like, "Let's play house," I'm like, "No!"
I'm
Please,
like
no.
there she's like, "What who are you?" I'm like, "Mommy." I'm mommy.
Yeah, but I'm like, I also get, it's like you said, there is such a balance of doing things that they love, like for them,
Mhm.
but also maybe not doing it every time or finding things that you also love, like you with the plants and including them. Like it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Like you can feel both things, do both things, but also not like overwhelm yourself.
Yeah,
Like you
sometimes
don't
I set
have
a
to just,
timer.
yeah, it's like you don't have to just do things because they like it. And it's good for them to learn, not always about what you want. Sorry.
Right. Well, and I know, like, again, here goes Hav trying to explain things to a 3-year-old that 3-year-olds have a hard time with, but I'm trying to teach her that, like, we don't always have to do things that other people wanna do.
Right.
If we want to play with somebody, sometimes we have to adjust. So if I wanna spend time with Azzy, sometimes mommy has to play Barbies for
Mhm.
15 minutes so
Right.
that I can make sure that I get in that alone time with her. When she's at the park, sometimes she will have to change what she wants to play because she wants to play with somebody. But if
Mhm.
she wants to do what she wants to do more so than she wants to play with that person, then it's okay to go be on the swing instead of playing chase today.
Right.
And I feel like we always talk about kids hear everything and they do what you do and stuff, but sometimes I feel like, at least for me, I forget that I'm leading by example with everything that I do.
Mhm.
So sometimes telling her, "Hey, mommy doesn't feel like doing this today," or, "Hey, I got 15 minutes to play dolls with you before I have to get up
Yeah.
and do the next thing, and you can come help me do the next thing."
Yeah.
But I think that's been a nice middle ground that we've found, and it
Mhm.
feels a lot less toxic than me being angry about playing for hours a day and not getting anything done that I wanna get done, but it also gives her attention and time that she needs without her, like, she reads, I don't know about all toddlers, but she reads my emotions like a freaking, and she feeds off of it. So, it does better in our house for us to have like a, "Okay, mommy says I'm done now and we can go be happy and do something else," because
Yeah. It works, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great point, like, you can be grateful and enjoy those moments, and yet still sometimes be overwhelmed, overstimulated, and need some time where you're like, "Okay, like, no," you know? But I think it's normal to find parts of anything draining, and
yeah,
so I think it's weird that we view it like, "Oh, maybe we find something in motherhood draining." It's like, "Oh, we're instantly a failure, we're instantly a bad mom." Things like that, and it's
right,
like you can like, struggle's normal, and it's normal in anything. It doesn't matter the relationship, it doesn't matter the situation, like, you don't have to enjoy every part, but you can still love your kids.
right. Well, and that too, I think on the you not having to enjoy every part, I was so quick to make not excuses, because 'cause they're not excuses, but, like, be like, "Oh," when newborn stage with Tony, and being like, "Well, this, like, you can't soothe her like I can," and stuff, and making, like, and being like, "It's okay. This makes sense." But as soon
Mhm.
as it came to doing things like pretend play and stuff, and he's so good at it, and she and him have so much fun. Most of it is like wrestling and stuff, but that is their pretend play, and she loves it. And me being like, I should just be that parent for you, but also finding who we are as parents and being different people, that works perfect for him. And I've
Right,
gotten more comfortable saying, "Hey, that's a daddy game. Like, you're gonna go play that with daddy when he gets home. I don't like the roughhousing," stuff
right.
like that, which I think might is like a good lead into
Mhm.
figuring out who you are now as a parent and what that looks like with your kid and without your kid, and me realizing that Tony is the fun parent and I am the get no, I am fun, but it
Well, and
definitely is
it's
like
also a good reminder that there are well, maybe not all of us, but some of us do have partners, and we can
mhm,
share the load. Like, you don't
right.
have to just take on all the load, and I think that's a great point. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, that's 100%, and I also like, if you don't have a partner, you
Right, then
still
I
don't have to do it all because it's good to teach your kid, in my opinion, that there's just some things that we don't like, and we can respectfully say,
Mhm,
"No, no, we're not doing that." But, no, yeah, I was just thinking about how, like, my personality as a parent and my personality as an individual is so much different than what it was and what I expected it to be.
100%.
That was, like, a whole grappling situation of like we said, right? Like, I love my kids, but I miss who I was with me figuring out my new personality. And we talk about this a lot. Like, I'm so much more myself, but in such a different way. My confidence is different. My style, I say, is something is what I would have wanted it to be before, but it's different, right?
Yeah,
Like, the way that I interact with people is different. And a
yeah,
lot of it is because I'm a parent. So,
right.
like, how do we figure out what that looks like?
Because I think it's definitely an acknowledgement, like, I hate when people are like, "It doesn't change." No, it does. Like, you can say what you want, and we'll actually have another episode about that, but it does change. It's like, no matter I don't know, it does change. So, I agree. I think you're allowed, like, grieve the old you, feel the
Mhm.
feelings, like, don't let them consume you because unfortunately, like, the change has happened. Like,
Right.
you're not going back whether you want to or not. And like I've said, change is hard. So, this is just another chapter, and that means it's time to find new ways to enjoy yourself and redefine who you are. And I actually, for me, I'm excited to do it. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like there's a lot of things I've yet to even get into or that I didn't enjoy as much before, but I'm like, "Hey, I wanna do that now." Like, for example, homemaking tasks, like doing bread or
Yeah.
canning or, I don't know, having a garden. Like, it's just funny because those things a few years ago, I'd have been like, "Nope." But now I'm like, "You know
Right?
what? That sounds I kinda like that idea." And so, yeah, I think it's in a good time to revisit old joys in new ways, identify things you used to love, maybe your hobbies, passions, whatever, and then kind of find bite-sized ways to bring them back. You know, like Hoff said, let your kids be in on it. Or like even for me, I'm starting to pick up back up things like I said, gardening, whatever. But I also like doing some DIYs. And it's funny because I'm not done with Dash's nursery yet. LOL. And so I even this weekend I was working on letter like his name to go on the wall, and I did a little bit here and there, and sometimes he would, like, sit next to me. Obviously, he didn't help, but, like, it's just
Right.
including him, and so, yeah, I think it is hard when you're in a new season, but I think it does lead for a lot of opportunities to yeah, it's just leading it's opening doors,
Yeah.
honestly.
No, I totally agree, and I am actually really excited to see you get back into, because I just remember being in the stage that you're in and just wondering, like, all I wanted at that point was my old self. I was like, "When am
Mhm.
I just gonna feel like I can do some of the things that I wanna do?" And do I have the time for everything that I want now? Absolutely not. But I feel so much more like an actual human. Like, I feel better than I did, I think, before having Azzy, because I'm so much more sure of myself and how, like, exciting it is that I get opportunities to do these things, whereas before, I think you definitely take some of that stuff for granted. But it really is like, what do you still like? What do you have more confidence in? Would I have ever made a TikTok video before Azzy and posted it?
Maybe.
Absolutely not. Well, okay, to be fair, I made makeup videos, right? I think at the core, I'm exactly who I was before having Azzy, but I'm much more like, I don't care what you think about it. And like you said, the things that I didn't do before that I love now, like making bread.
Right.
Like, Azzy taking a bite of mommy's bread and being like, "Mommy, you did such a good job," brings me so much joy. And I always liked doing, like, I've always done my own nails and I do my own hair and I make certain things, but like the homekeeping is a
Mhm.
surprise for me. A lot of the things that I enjoy, or like cooking with her. And like, this is so much fun. Aggravating a little bit, a lot of it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, these are things that, like, when she was one, thinking about her cooking with me was like, my God, please
Yes.
don't. But it gets, like, cute.
Yeah. And I think you make an excellent point, and again, maybe this is another topic we'll discuss later, but I think the biggest thing, it's just hard when your time has changed. Like, for me, it was learning how to time manage in a different way. It's like you have
Mhm,
that some things aren't just going to get done. Some things are gonna have to wait until you do have more time, things like that. Like, because I'm obviously, like you said, when you're in this phase, and I'm very much in this phase, and I'm finally
mhm,
starting to get my time back and stuff, and it was just like for those first, I don't know, 9 months, 8 months, whatever, you're kinda like I don't know, I was restless. It was like, I wanna do all this stuff, and then I felt like I didn't have any time to do this stuff, and so, yeah, I
mhm.
think it's just also reminding yourself, like, sometimes you're not gonna be able to do it all because that's just the
Yeah,
reality of this new life.
it's true, which is a hard thing to face, and I'm,
Mhm,
like, kind of excited to see how it goes for you. I think for me, there was a phase where I didn't want to do anything. We talked
mhm,
about this in our self-care episode, right? But, like,
I agree.
I as soon as I got my time back, I was like, "I have time to read. I have time to watch Netflix." I didn't wanna start any hobbies, I didn't wanna do anything. Now I'm like, "Oh, I have time. I can read, or I can go do this activity that I wanna do. Maybe I actually wanna leave the house today. It's more fun leaving the house," stuff like that. But I think you're really honestly in the season of, like, how do you redefine this new season of life? For me, I'm still figuring it out, and I'm kind of excited to see what it's like with a second one. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
I might enjoy this pregnancy more because I know that I'll make it through and maybe I'll be different in, like, a better way. But
mhm,
how do you go about taking what you know about yourself now, what you knew about yourself then, and redefining yourself into a new, like, kind of a new identity? And I know for me, allowing myself to let go of a lot of who I
mhm,
expected I would be, and, like, not holding on to things, like, there are things that I'm, like, quote, unquote, "more childish" about than I thought I would be, but I'm allowing myself, like, our friend tells me I'm dramatic. Bree tells me I'm more dramatic now than I've ever been. And it's true. I am. I'm way more dramatic than I used to ever be. But like, I earned that. So I'm
Right.
gonna be dramatic. But does that feel weird to me to like speak up and be the person who's like taking air out of the room, right? Like I used to, whatever happens, happens. You know me, like go with the flow, chill, whatever. But now I'm like, no. Even when Azzy's not there, I surprise myself sometimes and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So like, yeah, kind of going through the hard feelings of realizing that I'm not who I was before. Some things I really like, some things I'm like, this is weird. But I would say, like, I definitely, and I tell you all the time, like, tell me the messy feelings. Don't feel bad for feeling guilty
Mhm.
about anything. If I didn't have you, I would have freaking lost it because I would have been like, feel judged and stuff. But like, I think that's how you get to where you're going.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think you made a really good point when you said adding another child, because this might be something that we actually come back to. Maybe we'll
Mm,
redo another part to this episode because I do think it can change, especially when
yeah,
you're adding a kid, things like that. Like, there's so, it's like you might, like you just said, maybe you're going to be happy or stuff, but then maybe they get here and you're like feeling right back in the same thing or whatever. Like, we just don't know.
yeah,
And so it's not fun, but it is interesting to think about when you add a child or things like that, how things can change.
mhm,
So, I think just to kind of, like, wrap it up, I think it's you can miss who you used to be. It's normal.
mhm,
It's okay to grieve her, but it's also an opportunity to embrace this new stage you're in. And so if this is how you've been feeling, like, I know Hav and I have definitely have had these feelings, maybe not so well, if there's one thing that you love, but it doesn't easily fit into your typical, like, in quotes, motherhood persona, how can you fit it into who you are now? Like Hoff said, maybe you include your kid, or what I said, maybe you just find a few minutes and that's all you have. But it's like, definitely find ways to, like, you can love your kids, you can grieve your old self, but you can also find ways to enjoy this new season that you're in.
yeah. Absolutely. And there's adding this last thing in because I don't think we've talked about it, but it's been on my mind lately. You can find new ways to find yourself, but you also have to find ways to give yourself space to not be doing the things that you want to be doing.
Mm.
A lot of times I have the expectation that I can go to the park with Azzy and I can read my book, but in reality, my mom brain is on and there's no way I'm reading my book or listening to my podcast because like I can't see her when she runs around the jungle
Right.
gym. So there's things that, like, I know as part of finding myself is also, like, getting myself to, like, be okay with things not being exactly how I want them. So find
100%.
yourself and, like, live in that, like, it's okay to feel like this sucks, but, like, try to find the joy in the
Mhm.
stuff that you don't normally enjoy doing.
And remind yourself it's a season. They're not
Yeah,
gonna be little forever, and it's like you might as well embrace that season because it's like what our parents always say, you're gonna look back and be like, "Blah, blah, I went," "you went,"
right.
and maybe not, but it's just a good reminder that it's like you can finish the book later. I agree because I definitely struggle with that of, like,
Yeah.
I take even work and I'm like, "Oh, I'll be able to do it here," and then I'm like, "Where was
What did
my
I do?
delusion coming from?"
Right. But I also should say that's coming from 2 people who hated that, like, being told to live in the moment during,
Right,
like, the
right.
early stages. So just know, like, from people
Yes.
who know you probably hate hearing it, it is true. Try to live in the moment as much as possible, but don't let that, like, eat at you. Like,
Right.
if you don't wanna be in the moment for a minute, it's okay.
100. Hav made such an excellent point. I hated hearing that because, yeah, especially when you're sleep deprived, you're like, I'm trying, but I'm also really miserable. And again,
Yeah.
maybe that's something we'll discuss at another because, and I get it. People mean well. Obviously, I just said it because there is some truth to it. But at the same time, if you are in the heat or like real deep into it, it can be hard to feel that way. So great point. But as always, stick with us as next week we are going to be hitting a big topic all about cutting family ties. But honestly, this could apply to any hard, toxic relationships. It does not have to just be family. People always have something to say, but like, when is it too much? So join us next week as we dive into it and discuss when enough is enough. Bye.
Bye.